Hey, what's up guys? I'm Steven with Vape and Smoke in Defiance, and today we're going to be talking about a couple of newer products to the market, and we just kind of want to touch bases on those. I specifically use a few of them, so we just want to dive into it and kind of talk about what the new things are, right? So first things first, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about pod mods and nicotine salts. So to dive into that, what we're first going to do is talk about nicotine salts and why they differ from regular nicotine, right? So bear with me these next couple of minutes or so. We'll be talking about nicotine. I'm going to try and keep it as basic and as simple as possible. I don't want, to be super scientific and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we're talking about vapes, so we'll keep it as simple as possible. But I want to kind of give a backstory so you guys can understand that. So what most normal bigger devices, sub-ohm devices like this will use is something like this. I vape a 3 milligram through that big guy, and that is freebase nicotine. Now all the juice behind me there and juice that you've probably ever bought for your sub-ohm device is freebase nicotine. Now freebase nicotine is something that we found out about in like the 60s, right? And we figured out that if we take nicotine in its pure state and we make it into freebase nicotine, it breaks down into our bodies a lot faster, right? It's a lot more bioavailable. We absorb a lot more, essentially a better bang for our buck. Now, we also figured out that with nicotine salts in the natural state like that, if we add a little bit of acid behind there and a little bit of magic, it absorbs into our bodies and it's almost as bioavailable as the freebase nicotine. So we still get that very quick response, right? But we can also up the milligrams. So like I said, I vape a 3 through my big modern device, my sub-ohm device. I vape a 50 or a 45 through this little device. So super long story short, we can pack that same big punch that we look for when we light our cigarette. And we inhale, we take that first inhale of the cigarette, and it's super refreshing, right? It calms our nerves, it gets a little bit less stress off of our shoulders, it makes us feel good, and that's why we smoke. This does the same thing. It packs that big relief of nicotine without the actual smoking, right? So now that we've talked about the nicotine, we can get to the fun stuff, and that's talk about the devices. So the first device that I want to show today is the Soren Air. Now as you can see, it's about the size of a credit card. It's a little bit narrower and a little bit thicker, but the same idea, same basic concept in size. On here we have the on-off switch. Now I'll be completely honest with you, I'm not exactly sure why they put the on-off switch there. It's never vaping unless you inhale on it, but I guess for security reasons, safe mind, it's on there if you want to shut it off. Down there we have the micro USB charging port. That's right, you don't have to worry about batteries and stuff like that. No screen, no buttons. You just plug it in like a cell phone and you inhale when you want to vape. We pull this off. This is our pod. This is kind of where all the magic happens here. And we pop off that little rubber stopper, and that's where we fill it. Put that back in there and we snap it back in place. And it's that simple. It's that easy. We just officially, technically speaking, filled the pod and changed the pod for that matter too. So again, if you're familiar with vaping, you'll know that you have to change your coils when they burn out. In something like this, a pod like this, you don't actually have to change the coil. You just throw away the pod and buy a new one. So it makes maintenance almost maintenance free. It's very, very, very little maintenance. Essentially all you have to do is keep a fresh pod in here and fill up your juice when it's empty. I personally get about a month out of my pods, and I also get about a month out of my 30 ml bottle of Nic Salt, so it stretches really far. So I like that about it. But enough talking about it. Let's dive into it, right? A very nice, small mouth-to-lung hit. We're not getting crazy amounts of vapor. Very, very nice and refreshing hit. It's very restricted, very similar to a cigarette. It packs that big punch of nicotine like we were talking about earlier. And I personally take half of my tank and I fill it with my Nic Salts. but then I top off the rest with CBD because I like to vape CBD as well. And these are really good devices for that. So kind of a little bit of a pro tip there. You can use these for CBD and they work really well. Very, very simple little dies, and I love these. You can pick these up at Vape and Smoke for anywhere between the $30 and $40 mark. They're quite cheap in the vaping realm. And pods, like I said, you replace once a month. They're roughly about the $8, $10 range. They're not too bad either. So I like that. And if you are trying to kick the cigarette habit, you can hold it like a cigarette too. They're very lightweight, they're very compact, they're very stealthy when it comes to the amount of vapor that they put out. And that's really cool. That's why I like it as much as I do. Now we'll move on to this one. That one was the Soarin' Air. This one is the Autopack Dolphin. So the Autopack Dolphin, as you can see, is a little bit different. It's still roughly about the same height, roughly, of the Soarin' Air, but as you can see, it's quite a bit thicker, and it works a little bit differently. So with this one, we actually turn it on and off with this fire button, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks. Pops up, and the other cool thing about this is it's got LED lights, so it can actually show you its battery power. Very nifty. The other thing is, again, micro USB on the front to charge it. Again, we don't have to worry about wattage and screens and batteries. You just plug it in and charge it like a cell phone. With this one, we'll pop up our little tank cartridge, and down here we actually have an actual coil instead of a pod. So when this burns out, we just pop this out, throw it away, buy a new one. And it's literally that simple to change a coil. You don't have to worry about threads with these. That's why I like this one so much. Very low maintenance again, and very easy maintenance. And then we fill it right there on the side. Very, very simple. Snap her back into place. And that's all there is to her. We've officially changed the coil and filled the juice in this one too. Right there you can see 2 little airflow holes. Now, I know some people will actually use their second finger to push the button and their first finger to cover up those airflow holes. So you can kind of adjust it that way and see how you like to hit it. If it's too airy, you can kind of cover part of one or both of them. You have the option to kind of change your airflow. So that's cool as well. But without further ado, let's hit this one as well. This is our fire button, so we do actually have to push a button on this one when we inhale. Quite a bit more vapor in perspective. About double, I would say, roughly. This one I use 45 through as well. Sometimes I use 25, but I generally try and use 45 through it. And this one does a couple of extra cool things as well, right? So we don't have to change the pod, we do have to change the coil. The coil is not going to last quite about a month, at least for me. On average, like I said, I get about a month out of this pod. I get about 2 weeks out of this coil, so it's about half. But also, the price is about half. You're going to be about $4 to $6 for a coil, so it kind of balances out. The other cool thing is that it holds 8 milliliters of juice, which is phenomenal. That's a lot of juice in the vape tank world. And the other cool thing is that there's multiple coils available. So you can do an above ohm and you can use the nic salts like we were talking about, or you can use a sub ohm and you can use your regular juice if you want to blow bigger clouds and want to kind of transition into a more airy, flavorful kind of vaporizer, right? More like a modern sub ohm, but compact and easy to use. So that's cool. You have these swap up abilities, so it can grow with you or you can grow with it depending on what you want to do. It's a very, very nifty little guy. Both of these, like I said, are my favorite. Like I said, this one you can pick up for about anywhere from 30 to 40 bucks here. And this one you can pick up for anywhere between the $40 and $50 mark. Both very, very nifty. I use both of these every day. Very, very cool. And the other thing with nicotine salts is they're so smooth, right? So with this, I personally can't vape above a 3 in freebase nicotine. It's just too throaty for me. It's too harsh. And that's what a lot of people and a lot of beginner vapes or vapors kind of experience is, you know, they're smoking 2.5 packs a day and they want that nicotine push. So they'll go with a 6 or a 9 or a 12 milligram and it's just so harsh and it's so bogged down, and you don't really get a whole lot of flavor because that nicotine is kind of fighting that flavor. With something like this, with the nicotine salts, it's not only really, really smooth on your throat, so you don't have to worry about that harsh throat hit. It's really flavorful as well, and that's a phenomenal thing. You know, you pack your punch of your cigarette without a cigarette. You have that beautiful pod portability. Like I said, I carry this everywhere I go. I just throw it in my pocket. When I'm helping customers, I can hit on it, and I'm not rude, and I'm not blowing big clouds. I can use it in the car. I don't have to worry about rolling down the window in the wintertime. I can use it in my bedroom. I can still see the TV. There's a lot of cool things from these. And you still get that delivery of that hard pack-a-punch nicotine, kind of like, for lack of better words, the Nick buzz that we search for when we light our first cigarette, right? So if you're trying to transition from cigarettes to vape, this is a great way to do it. If you're trying to just get into the vape realm and start vaping just to vape, to stay away from cigarettes, or to help, you know, transition from the big bulky mod, you don't want to carry this every day, you want something smaller, this is great for you as well. They're phenomenal from anywhere from beginner to, you know, expert. They're phenomenal for everybody. Like I said, I carry mine all the time, every day. I would definitely recommend one of these. They're cheap, they're compact, and you pack that punch. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next review. Peace.